Okay, it looks like things are working now, so hopefully things stay that way. Nice to see you, everybody. So we'll soon be joined in Discord. Oh yeah, Punzel's trying to remind me that I can use, my keyboard to move her around. So let's pick up this pic. Of course, I have no clue how many of you have been watching the stream earlier, so how much of the gameplay you know or not. So we're kind of just starting from the beginning and trying to see what everybody is up to. I hope the sound is working. I'll open the chat. Feel free to let me know if anything doesn't work in the chat. Yeah, but it's so weird. Yeah, I don't know. I'm streaming the normal way, but not via the featured event schedule thing, so I don't know. Anyway. Cool. Also, feel free to, ask me to draw something live. Since I'm now here, I can draw whatever you would like to see. But of course, I can also just talk about the game. Yeah, what we can see here is basically us trying to use as little words and explication as possible or verbal explanation to kind of show the players what, where Punzel is at and what is happening. So basically, this is her current habitat, where you can find a Punzel, and then her occupation is pretty boring. Which, I've always been wondering about. What do, those princesses do all day long? And I actually enjoyed the Rapunzel, the Tangled intro very much. But the difference between Rapunzel in Tangled and Punzel is that Punzel has to live an even more frugal lifestyle. You can see her room is pretty empty. There's a table, and you can see this thing, which is part of her clothing line. So she's the proud owner of 3 dresses that all look the same. And yeah, she has a bed, so she can sleep, and that's about it. She's fed occasionally. Yeah, and luckily there is one thing to occupy her. Hi, Steffi. Nice that you're here. Great to see you. You would let me know if something was off with the sound, right? Because I can still adjust it in OBS. But yeah, this is kind of a little bit inspired of how I always imagined Martin Luther translating the Bible. I mean, I'm not really Christian, but of course, growing up in Germany, you get to know a little bit about the background and the values, and and I always loved castles and what's the other thing called? Fortresses and castles, and we have a lot of them in Germany, so I visited quite a few. Unfortunately, not the Wartburg. However, this is inspired by my vision of. Only difference is that she has an invaluable balcony, and this, as you might have heard earlier, this is one of the only locations in the game where there is actually some full screen stuff happening. Everything else is in this Gametoon format, inspired by comics, cartoons. Kind of, the whole game is supposed to be like an amalgamation of comics, especially not so much the full page comics like the Marvel or DC comics, and also not so much inspired by the BD style, but really the newspaper cartoon things. So basically, I was a huge fan of Garfield and Hagar and those types of comics. And so this is supposed to be kind of like at the intersection. So, yeah, let's experience some boredom. Oh, where? Oh, this is a nice question. So the question in the chat is, where did you get the idea to make this game? where, if this is a location-based question, I can't really answer it, but I can answer the when question, which is over 10 years ago in the Game Lab in Karlsruhe, which at the time I was the head of. We were just a small art school student-made institute at the time. We had media art and at the school also product design, communications design. And then the Game Lab was founded there based on a student initiative. By the way, one of the first ones in all of Europe, and pretty quickly then came, a lot of the other ones that have by now grown way bigger. However, at the time we wanted to make a small game we called Ridiculously Large Swords. And basically we had 3 characters, cliche characters, at the beginning of the game, and Punzel was one of them, the perfectly helpless princess. We also had the Gentleman Brute, which was an orc with a top hat and very like combine your idea of a British butler with a grizzly orc. That was the second character, and then I don't even remember the third character. However, Punzel stuck, and then basically I started to draw some very now retro-looking, or to put it blatantly, ugly webcomics, but with her as a main character. So her setting is pretty old, but then this kind of slept, and I always continued to evolve the world during my PhD, and then finally found a group of people who were interested in making this game together with me. And yeah, let's open the door or try to find a way. Yeah, so there are several ideas in this thing. So how I came up with Punzel, this I explained now. The core gameplay is based on another idea. Let's say hello. Yeah, let's not get frustrated. So basically, a part of me felt that I became a bit more pacifistic over the years. And I realized that fighting mechanics started to frustrate me in games. Now, I don't have anything against them. Of course, they're, I have been as addicted to RPGs and Final Fantasy and grinding type games. But the game designer inside of me just felt that it's a little bit... Part of me felt that it gets old, at least for me. So I was wondering if there is any other possibility to fill up a game with interesting stuff. And I realized that to me, it wasn't easy for me to interact with people when I was younger because I just stepped on toes. I felt like I was often failing in social interactions, and I didn't know why. And the only way this changed was once I started to observe and really start to think about social interactions like a kind of gameplay, and constantly analyzing everything I did, scanning how my opposite reacts, and then trying to act or readjust accordingly. And after a while it just mapped in my brain how similar those two things are. A fighting mechanic where you choose, do you want to use fire or ice or electricity, or do you want to choose, am I going with a compliment? Am I going with an insult? Am I going to stand my ground? Am I going to, move backwards? So basically, I was wondering, this game was kind of to be the prototype for a social interaction mechanic, where basically the question becomes, can social interaction be as engaging as a combat mechanic? Of course it won't be from the beginning. Oh no, all the things I uncovered are gone. Yeah, I should have collected them. See, this game teaches you if you don't do something immediately, you have to retrace all your steps. This is not intentional, but now it's kind of a feature and not a bug, so let's quickly collect those pages. And so basically in this game you get information about characters. Loyal, assiduous, ambitious. Those are character traits that this goblin that we interacted with has. So you can see his relationships not every information in this is chapter 1, right? Not every single information you get, most of them, I'd say 95%, but there is a 5% that kind of will only become a bit more relevant later throughout, the following chapters. That will happen at some point in the future. I mean, let's get this first one out first. Like the prince hit ratio, this is more of a meme, because you cannot, as a player, you cannot influence it, and 100% is a rather rare number, but this is part of, I'm sorry, I'm going on way too many tangents. Punzel is called toujours la même histoire, which was meant to be toujours la meme histoire, because this first Gametoon is supposed to establish all the memes that then will reoccurringly happen, or that happen in the animation videos we did and the comic books. And one of the reoccurring memes is that no prince ever reaches the castle. And one of the reasons for that is because the goblins, incompetent as they may be, for some reason are extremely competent when it comes to the, keeping princes off thing. When it comes to keeping princes off the castle. This is Crow. Part of the reason why Crow is in the game is because I love crows. Crows have so many qualities that I like. First of all, like many people, I very much enjoy birds, but there is something about the blackness and commonness, but also intelligence of those birds that I just find highly aspirational. They're not trying to look flashy. They're not, they don't have pleasant singing voices. They're just like, ah! But at the same time, they're super smart. They're not extremely afraid of humans. You can actually befriend them. There is some very strong underdog narrative there that I personally identify with. And they also, in this, fit this kind of more frugal style of the game. I mean, you might have realized the game is not very heavily decorated. I try to use only images. Like, everything that you see in the game has meaning. There is no object in this game that was just placed for decoration. Everything holds information or can be interacted with. Yeah, exactly. So, to go back to your question from the chat earlier, the game basically combines several ideas. One idea was, can we combine a comic with a game, two things I love equally? So this is why this is a Gametoon. So it tries to innovate there. The original idea was to bring the webcomic format to games. Like, can we make only 5-minute games, just a little bit of gameplay that we can pull out quickly. That was the original idea, and then of course we feature creeped, and now this is a full-fledged 2-hour gameplay point-and-click adventure. So this did not work, this part of our idea. The second innovation was the core gameplay, which the game very heavily focuses. And in the demo you only get a small taste. Actually, in the later part of the game, there are quite some more characters, like not only... I mean, I don't want to spoil you too much if you haven't played the demo yet. There will be a character later of which there will be more variance, so that every time you explore somebody or something new, no social interaction will be exactly the same, but there's also more characters inside the later part of the game than you can see here. Okay, so basically the crow it feels confident enough to be close to you, but not, willing to help you yet. So you kind of need to bribe it a little bit. Yeah, so also the game kind of plays a little bit with those slow moments. The game is actually it would be finished by now, The question from the chat is, how close is this game to being finished? And the answer is, it would be finished had we not committed to a final feature creep, which is the implementation of a complete mini game inside of the game, and now we kind of need to tie it into the story. So actually, even if you played the demo, it will be worth it to completely play it from the beginning, because now the beginning part will change a little bit. It has to do with the crow. So, oh yeah, the composer. Okay, so the chat says the composer did such a great job with the falling music of the feather. The composer, first of all, is my sister, and I need to shout her out, Matilde Sound. If you have played the game Unrailed, I think this is the biggest game so far. She and her partner did all the composition and sound design for that. She also did composition and sound design for Get Together, another indie game, very cute indie game on Steam, and so far has been involved in every single of my games. And I mean, she is the most talented. She is talented and a perfectionist, and every single, like, you should play this game with your headset on. Everything that this game lacks in color is colored via the music and sound effects. So you can hear right now there isn't a background loop or something like that. That is because the game wants to reward you with the music in the moments that, you know, that the music happens. That's why also every single interaction has its unique music. So even, you know, every interaction with this goblin, with Gergor, is different. Or also you can hear that every hovering, every choice you can make when it comes to your gestures or movements has its own little sound effect. Okay, the Punzel smell ties into the social interactions, because basically not with the goblins, but at a later point in the game, your smell will influence can influence the success or failure of your outcome, because sometimes people underestimate how important smells are in human social interactions, basically. Also, the other reason, of course, is one of those typical game design reasons. Basically, at the beginning, the dressing thing was just meant to be a stupid joke, which was kind of like, we didn't have the resources to completely implement that Punzel can have different dress colors, because all the walking animation, it's hand animated sprite animations with I don't know how many single pictures. So basically, and since Punzel can walk in 8 directions, we just didn't have the capacities to completely always recolor the stuff. So basically we decided to bring in the dresses, because it's part of the design of the room, and then just make a joke out of it that you basically click on them and you could redress, but nothing really happens. Oh, interesting. Yeah, thank you. I'll maybe like this, and I think I can also audio input capture. Okay, how is it like this? Is this better? Oh no, I did not listen to the question from the chat is if I have already listened to the fart song of Gene from Bob's Burgers, because in the stream yesterday we included the Bob's Burgers, including that into one of our meme pictures, was part of the stream yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't get to it, but it is on my to-do list, like high up there, because Bob's Burgers is going to be the next series I'm going to watch, thanks to your recommendation. Okay. Yeah, so I went on so many tangents, I don't even know where I am right now anymore, or if I answered some or most of the questions. But yeah. I hope some of them... Oh yeah, even though I already said it, I just want to quickly say that one of the things that probably few people will notice, but that I'm super proud and happy about, is the landscape scene and the weather, because it's generated. It's it's random what kind of weather you're going to get, and we have wind direction. The wind can come from the left or the right. We have clouds, how many clouds spawn. We have wind strength, and depending on how strong the wind is blowing, the rain is different. We have rain strength. It can have this small little pittering rain. It's called Nieselregen in German, but it can also be, stormy even. And even the crows that fly over this landscape scene have a logic. Depending on where the wind is coming from and how strong it is, and if it's raining or not, more or fewer birds will spawn, and they will move into different directions, or be more likely move faster when the wind comes from one direction than the other. Like basically, if they have the wind in their back, they fly faster, as you can see with the one that's just flying across right now. So basically, I wanted to make this landscape scene as rewarding as possible, and to give you this kind of a soundscape feeling, because this is the only place, this is the only hobby Punzel can have. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you for letting me know that the sound is better, and yeah, I can move a little bit out of the out of the light. It's okay, I already have a curtain in front, so I'm not blinded. I just probably look slightly holy right now. Oh. So Oh, okay. Yeah, let's see. What do you have here? Give me this. I want to have this. Okay, let's see. I think we have a carrot. Okay, okay. Oh, yeah. This is another thing. This is something that we feature crept so much. In the beginning, this was just supposed to... Oh, wow, now I look like Two-Face. This gets even more interesting. So in the beginning, this was just supposed to be something small, just because collecting every single page is not so interesting. I wanted to make the cover meaningful. This is why I put my favorite saying into the cover, which is everything has an end, but the sausage has two, which is much more easy to or which maybe is for the German fans, because this is, yeah, I think a stupid German song about the sausage. But the reason why I love this saying is because I hate sayings. I find it difficult to believe that the world is so easy to understand that you can just break it down into one, saying, one sentence, and then, you've explained the whole world. So to me, everything has an end, but the sausage has two is the incarnation of a one sentence saying, and its average truthness. So that's why it's in there. Yeah. And now we have a book, and this book is us completely feature creeping. Oh yeah, the Overlord bookmark, by the way, will hold, or there is an Easter egg you can collect in the full game, and I very much recommend you to try to collect it, because it ties in with the options menu, where you can disable fart sounds. And I'm not going to spoil any more, but the only reason why this is there is because of this Easter egg that you will then find. So unfortunately, this is actually a bug that this is here in the demo, but at least now I can tease, something for the rest of the game. So that is nice. Yeah, so quick things about the book and where we completely overdid it and were very uneconomic and not smart. First of all, you can see that the content of the book is curved, right? But before you... oh god, the disabling of the spiders. Okay, so the chat said, oh my god, I just saw you can disable spiders, thank you so much. To be honest, it's another joke, because the only way spiders are depicted in the game is just the way you can see them right now. So when you disable spiders, yes, you will, except for this spider symbol, you will not see the spiders that look like this in the game. But of course, it doesn't matter because you already saw the spider, right? However, the way the spiders are covered hold even more Easter eggs. So, yeah. Basically, the reason this exists is because when we designed the options menu, we went through different forums to see all the different options that we might need and that we should be aware of or keep in mind. Having a possibility to turn off spiders for people with arachnophobia was one of the things we found. And we found cool videos of how some games who use especially spidery 3D models, how they replaced the spiders. And we loved that so much that even though our game only contains iconic representation of spiders, we wanted to have this option in here. So this is completely unusable except for one of our stupid little jokes in the game. Yeah, so basically, as I was saying, in the beginning, when you don't have the book, you have single pages, and in those single pages, everything is straight, right? So every single book page exists 2 times in the game. One, like, we had to redraw them 2 times. Once how they look in the book, and once how they look like this. And the reason we did this is because I hate ugly user interfaces, and I hate when the font doesn't match, or when you can see that everything is super lovingly crafted and super beautiful in illustrations, and then you can see that they just chose, exaggerating, but then they just use Arial and just place it in a way where you can see that it's the computer putting the font, calculating the font on top. And of course, this is amazing because we are going to kill ourselves with the localization, but everything in the game is about this specific aesthetic. So also every single word you read in this game has been hand drawn by me on my tablet, basically. This is all done by hand. So yeah, and one final feature creep that I'm also going to show you is in the impressum, where every single person got their own impressum. This, by the way, another shout out, is our main programmer and the only reason why this game exists in its form, because he really accommodated every single stupid idea and feature creep that we had. And what you can see in the upper right, by the way, is the first project we worked on together already, which is a Punzel game, interestingly. The first Punzel games, there exist 3 3D Punzel games that are all multiplayer, hot seat, all on one keyboard and the mouse co-op games. So this one is called Mine the Gap, and it's basically Punzel in a minecart trying to outsmart the overlord. Both players can set traps and activate traps and make you and change the direction of the now I'm lacking the words. You can basically, there's train tracks, and sometimes the train track can split, right? And you can decide for the other player at certain moments in the game when the path is splitting to send them on a loop to prolong their way towards the exit. And then basically whoever reaches the exit first, either Punzel escapes or the overlord catches her. So depending on who you play, you can get that thing. Anyway, that was, I think, 8 years ago or something. So this ties once more in the fact that Punzel as an idea, as a franchise, is already pretty old, but only now we're really, making this game. Here we have another programmer who helped with DevOps. This is the programmer who helped us with designing the core gameplay, and my dog. And here we have, we have or had several great interns that are also in this game. And here, of course, you can find Knada Sound, sound design and composer couple. I can absolutely recommend you to, go to YouTube right now and just look them up and write them down. All their music is fun and great. And yeah, basically, it's thanks to them that playing this game is a treat if you use it with your headset. Okay. Okay, so the chat says, I love how big Punzel's world is, but her tower is so small. Uh, and what are the little stone-looking Punzel figurines? Oh yeah, those are 3D prints. Basically, wait a second. I have it here. This was the first merchandise I ever produced for Punzel, which is a pencil holder, and here you can put stickers or your business cards, carte de visite, in there. And yeah, basically us 3D printing Punzel. So yeah, completely feature creeped Impressum. Yeah, and one of the reasons is because the game doesn't have funding or anything. Most people who participate either do it as a hobby in their spare time or as an internship, also either not paid at all or very little, which I openly communicated from the beginning, but you know. And everyone, you know, really doing a great job. So I felt like the absolute minimum that can be done is at least, you know, feature them in the Impressum and give them the opportunity to present their website, their email, anything that they could be contacted by if people like what they see in the game. So this is kind of like at least a minimum compensation. Okay. Wait, here, that's so cute. Is she with Untitled Goose Game? I'm not sure. I mean, we have nothing to do with the Untitled Goose Game, but maybe, maybe that's a cooperation that should happen. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay, so we talked about the feature creeping on the landscape scene. Oh yeah, by the way, if you get bored after a while by Punzel's slow movement style, you can absolutely press shift and have her move a little bit faster. And there's even some secret buttons with which you can speed up the gameplay, which is of course our secret death buttons, because you cannot playtest this game if everything happens in this movement speed. Also, I highly want to recommend everybody to click here on this little mouse hole in the door. Oh, the goose figure. Okay, so basically, I mean, the figure has a goose with it. Yeah, no, I got this in a children's shop. It's for your finger, for the fact that you can play, you know, with your children, and that you can have this kind of a fairy tale princess, goose princess. And I just thought it fits the color and style of the thing. You're right, I completely forgot about the goose. Yeah, unfortunately, this is not by my hand. Oh. Okay, let's try to progress a little bit in the game. Let me know in the chat if I'm derailing too much. Okay, here is another possibility. I mean, we can, you know, go to the front and maybe try to walk towards him. Yeah. Here is another little musical joke, because I always wondered why. I mean, this is such a typical, like, it's used in Final Fantasy IX, it's used in animation, right? And after a while, I asked my teammates, why am I always reading this in French? Sometime later. And then one of them looked at me and was like, SpongeBob, of course. It didn't even connect in my brain. So then Mathilde composed this SpongeBob citation kind of, or SpongeBob inspired musical note. Just enough to not, you know, plagiarize anything, but enough hopefully to mentally connect to people, you know, where we are coming from. So yeah, let's see. Oh, we can hear a horn, and if anybody if anybody listened at the beginning of the game, then you might know what the horn means. But of course, I mean, most likely the cutscene has been forgotten. Whoever watched the teasers of the game will also know what's going to happen next, but no, let's get to it. Yeah, basically. Also, I want to highlight that no animal cruelty is happening in this game. If anybody is wondering, the horse is completely fine. And there is not even human cruelty happening in the game because actually the game, I mean, you heard already, the game franchise is pretty old, and by now the lore is as deep as a camera zoom going into the galaxy, right? So, yeah, I'm sorry, I said that already in another stream, and I always wonder when I'm repeating myself, but basically the world is already designed that not only do I know how Punzel's castle looks like, I know how the country looks like that Punzel lives in, or rather that the overlord governs. I know how the world looks like that the country of the overlord and all the other overlords is in, and I even know how the galactic structure of how those countries or how those worlds are connected look like. And basically the princes do not belong to this world. Those are not real living beings. So this game is not cruel. Yeah, Tina's horse, exactly. This one, if you watch one of the streams we did during the week, together with the chat, just said Tina's horse. Basically, yesterday we drew a Bob's Burger character here, and had her watch the horse. Yeah, so I mean, I can't say what. So the chat asked, they aren't real living beings. That's fascinating. What are they, or can you not say? I mean, I can spoil it. I would only spoil the number of people watching the chat. I don't think it's too much of a spoiler. Basically, the world of Punzel is like an inverse video game. The princes are real-life human players. The princes in this world are just digital avatars, but the people steering those princes are computer players from this world. So it's like the inside of a tower defense game, but an unevenly balanced tower defense game where basically the gobos are OP. So that's like, it's like there is a bug in the game where instead of, you know, because after a while no princes would continue to come. So this much I can say of the lore of the game is that that princesses have a function in this world. Actually, part of the lore is that there is a princess kindergarten where basically princesses are trained to become the princesses for each overlord in an overlord castle. And it's their job basically to wait, but because of the bug that is happening or the irregularity in this world, basically Punzel is just there and nothing ever happens. The game is never won in this part of the game, and so this is where the whole story begins with Punzel, basically. So yeah, let's see. Our strict goblin got awarded a badge. This is the only real gamification that's happening in this game. The only badge that is ever gotten in this game is gotten by Gergor from the Overlord, who uses gamification features to incentivize his goblins to work harder and do their job. And that's why we are now introduced to Mux, a character with different... yeah, here you can see, by the way, here you can see how the pages look like when they're not in the book. So here we have open to flattery, distractible, curious, but of course a prince hit ratio of 100%. And also, in contrast to Gergor, the relationship between the Overlord and Mux seems to be less good. Oh, thank you very much. The chat says, I love Mux, they're so cute. So you will be happy, hopefully, to meet him again. All voiced by Matilda. By the way, Matilda and I have a very similar voice, so there's very few sound samples where at the very beginning a few Punzel voiceovers were done by me, but then all the others were by Matilda, but you can't really hear it because we have, especially if, on tape, our voices are almost the same. And Mux is her voice, but just pitched. I think not only pitched, I think she also did some other things, but yeah. Okay, let's say hello. Okay, I can talk a little bit about the gestures that are in this gameplay. Since this is the first time that you have more of an option because the door isn't just slammed in your face, we were thinking about the kind of stand-ins. First of all, the reason why you can move forward and backward is because the position in space is important when it comes to social interactions, right? You don't want to be too close to a person, because that's uncomfortable. And in this specific situation, if you go close to the door, you bring him into an uncomfortable position, right? He gets scared of you. His job is to guard you. So if you walk to the door, basically he's like, okay, you can't come any closer, and the door gets slammed in your face. Okay, wait, let's see, since we... Oh, see, we fed the crow enough, so now it likes us. Of course, the crow is also done by Matilda. Every single character has a unique voice design to kind of to communicate to you on an acoustic level what is happening socially, basically. So since the crow now likes us, what we can do is we can just eat the food. Nom nom nom. Yeah. And that's it. I mean, yeah. Nothing will happen. Punzel doesn't really have a health bar. This is still a point-and-click adventure. It's, you know, it looks a little bit, it has some mechanics that are maybe a little bit Tamagotchi inspired, or Tamagotchi aesthetic inspired, but, you know, you can't kill her. It's still, it's a children's game, even though it has, you know, we had the demo on Play Store, but it got rejected because because the experts who reviewed the game basically said it's not for children, and I understand. I mean, if you don't know about the background lore, all you see is a prince getting killed, basically already in the opening scene, and there is some crude humor in there as well, or at least a little bit about farting and stinking, even though I believe this is very child-friendly humor. It seems not everybody agrees. So yeah. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. I don't know why I went there, but never mind. Okay, now we have even more options, right? The interaction before was kind of like the tutorial social interaction. In the central position, you could basically wave your hand, being the implication for saying hello. Then if you go onto the back position, you can raise your hands, which is the gesture for I'm giving up, like don't, you know, you don't have to fear me, right? Because you're showing your hands are up, you can't use them to pull a weapon or something. So when you do that with the goblin, he finds it funny because he, in contrast to Gergor, who is a little bit older of the two, he feels more, he's your size, and yeah, basically if you show him, hey, I'm almost afraid of you, then that's funny for him, because a part of him is also afraid of you, because he is afraid that he could get in trouble if you run away, right? Another thing you can do from behind is do a big wave, right, because you're further away. You can also tap your foot, like you showing that you're impatient. However, this is one of the jokes in the game, because some gestures can be a stand-in for several things. So you can see he didn't interpret as Punzel being impatient, he interpreted as her starting to give a rhythm. And we use that at several places. So you can see right now his idle state is that he is more anticipating what you're doing. He's not, mistrustful at the moment. Which is why this gesture, the so-called bro fist, is answered by him with a bro fist. But if you do that while he is already mistrustful of you, he interprets this as a violent gesture. You can give him a compliment, which is kind of like, you being like, hey, you're awesome, doing. And you can use this gesture here. But then, of course, he is a bit naive, but he's not completely stupid, so he will not, listen to that. So you will have to try to find another way. You can be like, hey, peace. And of course you can do the same gesture after each other. So if you are like, hey, if you do that, oh no, okay. Now sometimes what can also happen is if you traverse through the path of social interactions, your gestures might be replaced with other gestures. So now you already interacted so long with him and you have a good standing that another gesture got unlocked. So let's go for this gesture. And this is, of course, this is the only place where we put a fake choice in the game. It doesn't matter what you do here. This is, us one time using this cheap storytelling trick of basically pretending there's a choice, but in truth, leading to the same result. So normally what you would have to do in such a game is to have many positive such interactions that pile on top of each other, and then after a while he might be, you might become friends and he might open the door for you. However, in this time in the story something else happens. Basically you have a great conversation, you're having fun, the first threads of friendship are forming, but then something happens. You have been talking for such a long time that in the meantime a storm came up basically and the wind started blowing, and because the door was open something happened, and what you saw was that the whole tower gets dark, and this is the situation you are in right now. You are now in a dark tower. And basically he is inside your room, and the reason why he's in your room is shown in this speech bubble. Okay, the chat says I chose the eye pull one because it reminded me of Sailor Moon lol. If you like Sailor Moon, there is a secret ending in the Gobbo interaction that I will only tell you this. If you like Sailor Moon, try different things in the Gobbo interaction. There is a secret Sailor Moon ending. Okay, we can check out the storm. We can see that Crocro is also, it's gotten colder. You can see that the sky is dark. Crocro is freezing. We're stinking. Yeah, and when you, the player, suggest that she could go sleeping, then of course she will let you know, no, why should I go to sleep? Now is the perfect opportunity. This is what I have been waiting for. Yeah, by the way, this is, you saw that earlier you had the choice between eating the food and collecting the carrot. At this point in the game, you have to collect the carrot, because this is the point in the game where you need to at least, have the feather. And the only way to ensure that is to make sure that there is at least one thing you can give to Crocro. Okay, so now we're entering the tower for the first time. And of course the game tries to remind you that it is good to sometimes, look for hidden treasures. So here we can see the things that the goblins are doing. They're reading up about how to cook with skulls. This is a little bit of a planned feature for the future. Either on Discord, the original plan was Reddit, but either on our website or on Discord, we will put up the book covers. And then if people have ideas or are, interested, then we wanted to basically have user-generated content for those books. Like, to give the opportunity. I mean, if nobody is interested, then the books won't have, readable content. But we wanted to give the opportunity, because sometimes user-generated content can just be much more interesting and funny than the things you can come up with yourself. Oh yeah, and here we now learn about blight, and this hopefully already looks a little bit like the thing we saw in the bubble of Gergor, or of the goblin. So let's see, communication. Movement is reinforced through the cable vines to reach and inform all members of the colony. So basically, there is some text here, and this is the only place in the game where there is text, is on the book pages, and these texts are meant to help you with understanding the social interactions and why things are happening. So it's not telling you directly, but it's trying to give you hints if you feel like you can't, you don't know how to continue or what the right thing to do is in the social interaction. So here we learned about the blights in general, and here is another paper snip that tells you about a blight in specific. So this one is Stani. Stani is like an abbreviation of standard. So it's like a nickname. So basically this is for the players, the tutorial blight. Yeah, and we can see some information, certain sensitivity, spatial tolerance that he has. Okay. Yeah, so let's get to it. Okay, so this is the blight, and this hopefully is also Steiny? No, okay, so the chat says Steiny. Yeah, which in German is like a stone, like a cute nickname of a stone. But yeah, no, it's Stani. Okay. This, by the way, was quite some sound design challenge, because it isn't so easy. I mean, now it just sounds natural and normal, but at the beginning we were quite wondering how we can do the voices for the blights. The blights don't have mouths, they only have eyes, and they have a different logic. They're another type of being, right? In every Gametoon we wanted to give you the opportunity, on the one hand, to have a social interaction with an anthropomorph. So if you are such inclined, you can even learn something about social interactions in real life. But we also wanted to give you the opportunity to get to know new monsters with their own lore and own logic, and kind of try to figure out how you can tame or interact with a monster or a living being based on what you know about them. And so we completely tried to design a new type of monster with its own kind of logic. And yeah, thus a new voice needed to be designed. And since of course they're called blights, like BL, because they're either a blight or a light. But they look a little bit like bells, like they're hanging from the ceiling. So that's why we came up with this bell-like voice. And every single blight you can encounter in this game has its own voice. And Matilda, I think, once more, just did a great job in making sure that you can hear if it's going well or not. So you can also get a little bit closer. You can pull on the cable. Hopefully it becomes acoustically apparent that that's not the best thing to do. You can do interactions that basically the blight doesn't know what to do with them. You can poke the blight. Which is not such a good idea. You can also go to the back and you can raise your hands. I mean, it's something that worked with hooks. However, you can see that the cable moved. So the thing is that you might have realized or deduced or maybe even understood through the book is that movement is enforced through those cables. And basically, yeah, you can see the less movement, the more, you know, at peace they seem to be, and the more movement, the harsher they react, the more alerted they are. So basically, the twist with this gameplay was basically to be like sometimes not doing anything and being patient and proving to the other person that they can trust you and just calm down. Sometimes sometimes that is the way to go. So even though it might sound like a boring gameplay, we realized that it took most players. Yeah, wanted you to be able to hear this rewarding sound. We kind of wanted to. Oh, I'll be silent. Yeah, I wanted to be silent for this song. Several things about the song. First of all, I absolutely love it. I heard it. Actually, it was produced, or the beginning of the track was produced during a game jam for something completely different. And when I heard it, I basically begged Matilde if I can have it for my birthday. And she actually gave it to me for my birthday with a Punzel-related ending, because I knew from the beginning that I wanted to have an anime ending. And this is like, even though it sounds stupid, but part of me, one of the things I loved most about anime are just the songs that are attached to it. Like, I know by heart the Dragon Ball openings, the Digimon, they give me so much energy. Like the Digimon Butterfly and the I'm Just the Biggest Dreamer song. There is nothing that can fill me with motivation, determination, and just love and energy like those songs. And of course also from the shoujo anime from my time. I mean, yeah, I'm 35, so basically whatever was running in Germany at the time when I was around like 12 to 14, so was the most intense for me. The later ones, I never got that emotionally attached again, but I continue to watch anime until now. So anyway, this song kind of was the accumulation or epitome of what I love about anime music. And then I sat and spent hours and hours and hours to animate this. You don't even want to see the folder structure of what went into animating the whole sequence, dance sequence, with all the different movements Punzel does. And even though I didn't show it, but you can actually turn on and off the karaoke thing. So yeah, and by the way, the song, if you liked it, is released. We released it today on TikTok and on YouTube and on Instagram. So if you like that song, if you enjoyed it, just feel free to listen to it as often as you want. And yeah, so the chat asks, will you release a soundtrack? Yeah, we will, but once the game is released. Basically, Matilde has all the rights to the music, and it will be on Bandcamp, so that there's at least a chance that she can get some royalties for that. And yeah, and of course, if you play the full game, there will be a secret hidden gramophone where you can then toggle through all the music. So basically, I mean, okay, that was a first playthrough. Just a little bit of information. We have an art contest going. I mean, it's a feature I didn't even show yet to the stream, but basically what you can do in the game is you can draw. you can draw. And later in this evening during this stream, we will play a little bit of a game where basically either I draw something and the chat has to guess what it is, or the chat tells me to draw something and I will just try to do my best. You can not only draw, you can copy paste automatically this into your oh my god, the German word is Zwischenablage, but what is the English word for that? Anyway, whatever, the secret inventory stash you have when you press Control C. And then you can also copy it to your, make a screenshot in Steam. And yeah, oh, clipboard, yeah. Thank you. Exactly. You can put it, copy it into your clipboard, and then you can take a screenshot into your Steam gallery. And basically, we're currently having an art contest. If you want to, on our Discord, you can win cool prizes, like, for example, a postcard set that I designed, where you have 5 different motifs of Punzel. Oh, here you can see it. Her in different various, hopefully kind of relatable states of mind, and then with that comes a sticker set that you can use to accessorize Punzel in whatever way you want. So this is one of the prizes. Another prize is a college block that is called Diggin' It, because there is a Punzel here in the corner, and you can see that there are some exits. Where is it? Somewhere here, yeah, and at another place. So basically there is, with this college block comes a set of rules that unfortunately are in German, but they are pretty easy to understand, where you can play a die and against yourself and try to find a way out of the tunnel. So this is kind of like a spin-off where Punzel decides to dig a tunnel and try to escape the castle grounds in that way. And basically you can make it happen or not. And we have some nice do-it-yourself masks. So you can be the Overlord, or Punzel, or a goblin, and you can color it yourself. And of course the first prize is that you get your own Impressum-style goblin avatar and get represented into the world. So if you want to, you can, participate. But if not, it's also fine, no problem. I'm not, going to be disappointed at all. No, and you can play the free demo, and hopefully if you join the Discord, you'll also get updated on the new features that we are doing. And apart from that, we can try something. I'll quickly turn on the display capture and turn off the game capture. Let's see. With this, we should be able to at least check out the website quickly, because we have a very cool website. So just so you know, where not only you can find some screenshots to the other, by the way, free games that also come out of our creative hands, but also you can read up a little bit about the world of Punzel. This is the land of Skull, where basically the castle is located, so you can get a little bit more background information. There is a Punzel cam, and there is regular webcomic content. So if what you enjoy about the game is the comic style or the comic world, basically feel free to visit our website or go to our Instagram, where you can find a lot of content, like our reels. Here you can see the song, different announcements. You can see in the old box, this was one of the first renders. This is almost 10 years old, of the 3D model Punzel. This is Punzel art done by other people. This artist, for example, worked at King Art Games and has now moved back to a game company in Karlsruhe. Here was advertisement for social media stickers that you can use for free. So if you're a Signal or a Telegram user or a Discord user, basically feel free to join our server and get our stickers and Punzel, Overlord, and Goblin related emojis. And here, this was during Christmas. As an advent calendar, I posted part of a comic every day. Yeah, actually, Greybard Gaming in the chat says watchers don't make Greta cry, enter the contest. And they have actually been the first person to enter an awesome artwork with flaming meme with Punzel saying this is fine. Yeah. So basically, this is a little bit of advertisement of the different things you can do on our outside of game content things. So, oh, do I have magnets? You know what? Also, Verstrahlte Isabel from the chat asks, do you have magnets? And actually, this is merch that we have been planning to do since over a year ago. Not yet, but if more than one person says, yeah, you should also have magnets, then yes, I will produce magnets. So, yeah, how long have you all been working on this specific game is what the chat asks. On this specific game, we started, interestingly, in 2019. And it was, or was it 20? Was it 2020? No, it was 2020. I'm sorry, it was 2020. And it was supposed to take maximum half a year. As I said, the original idea for the format was kind of like the webtoon equivalent of a game. So just like 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay and then just a frequent upload schedule. Like only every 3 months a new Gametoon, just like you would have a new webcomic every 1 or 2 weeks. And try that format. And then we completely feature creeped and like in Indie Game the movie, there was the moment when the Fez designer realized that he had gotten so good during the development of the game in the later parts that he then had to redesign the, you know, all his graphics and the beginning part, and kind of a little bit stuff like that happened with this game as well, where we basically then, after the later parts got better, we had to go back and fix earlier parts of the game and improve it. And if we're being honest, we probably also and are still procrastinated away a little bit from the actual release. Just because, because it's fun working on this game. I mean, because part of our because this is a hobby for many of us, so we always work on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the evening, and only during, you know, before something like Steam Next or something like that do we really put, like, we did something like jam weekends or something like that, full days. But most often it's this kind of an evening thing. And yeah, so it took longer. So now it will have been like, I think 3 years now. It was supposed to be half a year. Or did we start in 2021? No, that's impossible. Okay, now I'm confused myself. I'm confused. It could be 2020 or 2021. No, it can't be 3 years. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know. Maybe 2021, and then shame on me. Okay, anyway, is there anybody who would like to draw something? I saw that Freezer is in the chat, so maybe we have the possibility to bring some people into the chat, but also maybe Discord stuff isn't working. I'm not sure. Let's see. Okay, cool. No, okay. Got nice feedback that they're only going to join when, you know, things are not entertaining anymore. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'm still capturing my whole display. Very embarrassing. Anyway, was it during the pandemic? Yes, it was during the pandemic. However, I have to say that the idea for the game and the franchise is 10 years old. So even though the game very much feels like a very COVID-inspired the idea is, in fact, has been there way longer. Oh, now, okay. Let's see. The game capture doesn't work anymore. Why doesn't it work? Yeah, now it works. Okay, okay. So, okay, let's. I'll try to quickly catch up with the chat. I'll have to look up a college blog. I've never heard of it. Isn't that a college blog? Is this only called a college blog in German? This is just is it a notepad, maybe? I mean, yeah, it might be like the word handy, which in German means smartphone or cell phone, but with the German, it's the official German word for smartphone or cell phone. And then as a German, if you try to, ask anybody if they can, lend you their handy, everybody else is like, what? You're handy. No, so yeah, this is like a thing with printed pages that you can, write on during college. I don't know, maybe that's why it's called a college blog. Block maybe because it's a block of paper, I don't know, yeah. Oh, what's the English word for this if it's not, well, if the American asks me what a college blog is, it can't be the right word, so. Anyway, okay, did I miss any other questions? It looks like a ton of work. Oh yeah, it has been a ton of work. Yeah, okay. Yes, no, okay, I think I got all the rest, okay. I mean, what we can do is we can delete our data, or we can also just play from the beginning and see if we can reproduce the bug that Steph found. Or Steffi. Yeah, here you can see the recurring meme. But of course, I agree, it only makes sense later in the game. Yeah, okay, so now basically the book, the idea is that if you start the game from the beginning, that then the book is already filled with all the pages you found. There is a more elaborate replay mechanic later in the game. So... to do a little bit of drawing. Okay. By the way, a final tidbit about the game is also the reason why the Zen mode exists is the game on the computer is used with keyboard and mouse, right? You can move the character and you can use your mouse to discover things. But when we thought about how to adapt it for mobile, we were wondering how we could incorporate the page finding and the secret and Easter egg finding into the mobile thing, because in mobile, of course, you can't move the character actively. You can only tell her where to go, which metaphorically is something else. It creates a little bit more of a detachment than when you're really when she's moving, when you're just in the moment you're pressing the keyboard. So on mobile, we still wanted to have a little bit of the separation of those two different human instincts, which one is the action instinct, like I want to go there, you already have a location in mind, you steer the character, you move it in a certain direction. And the other instinct is more like the Sherlock Holmes instinct, kind of you thinking about things, kind of yeah, meditating, going inside yourself, taking the time to scan, you know, your environment, to think about things. I mean, this is of course the metaphor of her thinking about things and getting ideas. And yeah, and of course there's a little bit of a meme where she starts to float, which is something I have how is it called? Recurring dreams of. I have, not only do I fly in my dreams, I sometimes dream that this type of hovering is something I can do through the power, like it takes effort in my dreams, but then, you know, I'm kind of floating around. So this is just, you know, fantasy wish fulfillment of her floating like this. Also, the music track is longer than you might think. Like, if you want to use this music to actually meditate, feel free to do so. It's the same as with the landscape scene. This is not a game that it's not for, or rather it also is for impatient people, because yeah, you can basically speed up Punzel's movement and you can play it through quickly, but the game rewards you for spending a little bit of time with it. It has an elaborate idle loop, and you can also use the landscape scene just as a, if you take the time, you can actually really use the landscape scene to just breathe and get a little bit more into the role-playing fantasy of being Punzel and having this location as her only place for relief and for her longings and desires, basically. Okay, wait, yeah, so the chat says Punzel's life is so boring she doesn't even have a handy. Yeah, it's very unhandy. But yeah, I mean, technology is not really a thing in this world, at least not in this part of the world. So, oh yeah, another question from the chat, so we can get a Punzel speedrun record, lol. Actually, we have a few things in the game that allow for speedrunning. There is one mechanic later in the game where we actually came up with we implemented a way to reward you if you try to speedrun. So yeah, the game also affords the opposite, but of course, yeah, it's not the main thing of the game. We always have this inside meme that we really made it if somebody really tries to speedrun Punzel. Like, that's the moment when the game, you know, has been accepted by by the community. If anybody, you know, even feels, you know, they should take the time to do that. Yeah, and there's another nice compliment in the chat. Having her tell you to use WASD was really smart. I was clicking all over until she told me. Yeah, we had to put it in the beginning because people just got completely frustrated and were not experimenting enough, so yeah. Okay, we can... I think, I mean, we still have some viewers. I don't know if it's new viewers, so I'm not sure if I should just play the game again. Alternatively, the plan was to just use the drawing feature and draw some weird stuff, if that is something that the viewers / the chat would like. So right now I'm a little bit... Either you could call it undecided, or you can just, you know, you could say I'm open to suggestions. Or, oh yeah, actually I didn't check the balcony for paper snips yet. Maybe. Oh yeah, I forgot a paper snip. The completionist in me. Yeah, nice. This was basically just to try to tell you all the different ways you can. Yeah, the share button only exists on mobile. Yes, the chat asks, is the feather not used in the demo? Yes, I'm sorry. The feather is not used in the demo. You have to see this as a teaser for things that are to come. Draw a bunch of princes in the landscape scene. Okay, that is a suggestion from the chat, so let's do that. Okay, what... Okay, where should I... Oh yeah, also wait a second, I will feed the crow, because otherwise we'll have crow sounds all the way through the drawing. Let's pick it up. I mean, not to promise too much. I am going to draw some princes that kind of, oh yeah, the feathers. Sorry. So, one of the things we're actually, or one of the games that is in the pipeline, or at least in our idea pipeline, for the game is kind of like, I mean, what I can do is I can at least draw the sketch for how that game could look like. So imagine that this is your smartphone. I mean, okay. Let's kind of get rid of the landscape scene. Okay. Okay, looks good. Oh god, the drawing feature lacks any comfort feature. I mean, if you want to draw pretty pictures, I can very much recommend not to use our game. Oh, the chat says I'm drawing a meme right now. It's so bad. Oh, I'm so looking forward to see the memes. One of our categories for the art contest is actually to draw memes. So we already have the room on fire, this is fine meme. But I so would like to encourage everybody who's watching to give me the philosopher raptor. Isn't it called like that? I don't know. The raptor thing that kind of has deep thoughts. I would very much enjoy to see that. Okay, anyway, so now imagine that instead of Punzel down there, you have the goblin. So the idea for this game, for this follow-up game, is an archer game based on... so you have the bow, and then it's mobile, and it's kind of supposed to be an archer game where here you have the prince, and then you can use your fingers and you can pull the bow, and then yeah, like a archer tower defense game. You get into the roles of the gobos, and for this we wanted to, we had the ideas for different kinds of princes. I mean, we are already there. If you want to get a little bit, yeah. The chat says I need blue color. Yeah, we currently don't have blue color. I'm sorry, there's only green. Yeah, wait, so this is the horse. We have a prince that is a drunkard. If you watch the teaser videos on YouTube, you can find them. There is already 3 storylines with 3 different princes. One is called Prince Punzel. Kind of like the prototypical, the defender type, how's it called? The tank, basically, type of prince. That's him sitting on a horse, more or less. Then there is the drunkard. With a nice cape. Then we have, of course, the frog prince. Prince Paul Panzer Kappa. Okay, this meme is too deep for me. So the chat says Prince Paul Panzer and then Kappa, but I don't get the Kappa reference, and I also don't know a prince called Paul Panzer. But interestingly, one of the people working for our game is called Paul, so I think I'm going to start to call him Prince Paul Panzer from now on. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, now he has a little bit shorter legs. I mean, yeah. Another combination of princes that I'm actually kind of proud of was a prince that kind of looks like this when he's riding, and then a prince that looks like this when he's riding, and then a prince that looks like this when he's riding. It looks a little bit better in the character design, but it was oh, Paul Panzer is a German comedian. Oh, see, I learned something new. So these three, I mean, here you always have to imagine the horse, kind of. So these three were meant to represent a 1, a 2, and a 3, because it is very common in the German Grimm fairy tales to see to have the 3 princes, like the eldest, the second-born, and the third-born. And typically the third-born would be the clever one who doesn't do it. Like, what is very common is the eldest has the birthright, he's rich, the second has something else, he's intelligent or something, or he is pious, and then the third one falls a little bit out of line, but he's the one that is smart or clever or resilient, and then if any of them succeed, it's typically the third one. Also, that was so interesting. After the movie, in German it was called Merida, I think in English it was called Brave, the one with the red-haired princess. After that movie came out, because she has those 3 little brothers, I was so convinced that a follow-up movie would come soon, and that it would be a persiflage of this 3 brothers kind of tale. I was absolutely convinced that that was going to be another movie produced by them, because they had because the setup was so I felt geared towards that, and you could have done such a great movie, I think, with those 3 kind of acting like one chaotic entity main character. I'm still disappointed that this movie doesn't exist. So the chat asks if Rapunzel is a German tale. Yeah, Rapunzel is one of the Grimm's fairy tales. I think among them, I mean, I can very much... we could even Google that, or maybe one person in the chat could Google it and write it in the chat, like the so many. Dornröschen, which is another movie that Disney has made, is also a Grimm fairy tale, which is The Sleeping Beauty. Which else? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is a Grimm German fairy tale. Something about the 7 geese, I think. Then the devil's hair. What more? I mean, I have several. Like, if you look in the cupboard behind me, you will see some mangas, but also I think 1 or 2 are completely only for fairy tales. So I could probably look it up anyway. I mean, seeing Punzel, you will not be surprised to hear that I really loved to read fairy tales when I was younger. There is even one thing I'm actually looking forward to when I'm going to do the princess kindergarten, is to kind of come up with a little bit of a curriculum for the people who watch the princesses are fairies, and those fairies are a little bit like the is it called governess? Kind of strict, old-fashioned teacher style characters who basically need to get those young girls in line, and I thought it could be super fun as a background lore to kind of get to know a little bit about their teaching materials, like what are good princess values, what are the things, you know, that those young princesses are being taught. Struwwelpeter should visit Punzel is what the chat says. Struwwelpeter, actually, to me, if you think of Mux, Mux is to me already kind of like a combination of Pumuckl and Struwwelpeter. However, Struwwelpeter, I think, is another collection of German tales, a very interesting one, because it's a collection of different socially dysfunctional characters. And Struwwelpeter, Struwwel is when your hair is, standing in all directions, and Peter is just a typical German name. So you call somebody a Struwwelpeter who is disheveled, I think, or disheveled. And it's basically a person who didn't take care of themselves enough. And in this Struwwelpeter are several fairy tales, and each main character is a person who can now be mapped with disorders. So one of the with now known disorders, because basically the person who did this book was a psychologist working in a mental institution and basically writing down as a kind of a comic book fairy tale kind of thing those stories with those different persons behaving according to those weird character traits. And when I grew up, still this was like a book that read like a don't be like this, but of course knowing that those are disorders. Like one of them was epilepsy, where there is a character that's called Hans Guck in die Luft. Hans always watches in the air, which is a behavior that can happen that if you have epilepsy, that then you can't move your head anymore, so or that it sticks into this upwards direction. So it reads very cynical if you now know that most of those behaviors you can't really control. ADD is also in there. It's called Zappel-Philipp, which is Zappeln is to be in movement all the time. Philipp, another name, and basically it's a person who kind of moves around the table until I think most of them die or get hurt a lot at the end of the game. At the end of the stories. It's such a weird fairy tale curiosity. Yeah, exactly. They were trying to put it. The chat says, "Oh, that's interesting." They were trying to understand things they didn't comprehend. So yeah, I agree. Yeah. So yeah, sorry. This went into a complete excursion on weird fairy tales. I hope that was still informative, even though you didn't learn anything new about Punzel the game. So yeah, but if you're curious, another character that you can look up is Pumuckl, which is now that actually I think, wait, let me write it here. I think it's just written like this, Pumuckl, but it's now even more interesting because there's a different reason. Like Mux and Gergor, there's a reason for their names, but this one I won't spoil. But now that I think about it, not only does Mux quite look like Pumuckl itself, it's also that you have the Pu in front, like in Punzel, and then you have Muckl, which is already just sounds like a Swiss variant of Mux. So, so that's interesting. And if you wanted to Americanize it, of course you could. You should write it with 2 O's, right? No, I don't know. So. Anyway, I mean, now I drew some princes into the landscape scene. Google. Did I write it incorrectly? Struwwelpeter reminds me of Freddy Krueger. I mean, yeah, I wonder which character in the Struwwelpeter universe connects to, the inspiration for that character. Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's take a screenshot and let's go back to the game. But that was unintentional. Like Pumuckl is something I watched as a child. I think until I was 6 years old or something. It's not something that I'm still, that it wasn't in the front of my head. But of course, I mean, once I reflected about it, you will find so many different inspirations simply of all the things that I watched when I was younger. Oh, okay. So the chat says that I wrote Pumuckl correctly, but then for English-speaking people, it it spells like two O's when you hear it. Yeah. Okay. I mean, what we can do is. I can at least try to teaser a few of the other princess characters that are going to follow soon, together with two new overlords that you will get to know. Every single overlord, by the way, has their own theme. So the one overlord that will come will be an overlord that has the theme of a little bit of how network and information gathering works like. So he basically has kind of like spy minions that look a little bit like this. So there's a creature underneath. They have hands, and they because they can't be seen themselves, so they're like my weird. No. This is their whole body. It's like they are a walking hat, like a walking witch's hat, with just with eyes. And then they kind of, they gather information, and what they do with all those single information points is they combine them into connected data, which then becomes gossip, right? So if you just see a random person at a random time, if you just collect the time and the person isolated from each other, like you see person A is at place N at time X and person B is also at the same time and place, then this is just unrelated information points. But now if you then get another information point, which is, oh, person A is married, then you can combine this information, and if you know that person B is not the husband, suddenly you have gossip and not just unrelated information points. And basically that's their mechanic. What they're doing is collecting information, and then instead of eating, what they do is they feed on gossip, and the gossip kind of becomes less and less tasty the more other people or minions have already heard of that gossip, basically. So this is how they work. And then the other overlord is called Lord Gift, which is a German. It uses the German word gift. In English, gift is a present, but in German, gift is poison. And so he is the overlord that deals with the topic of all things you can consume that changes you. And his minions are the so-called shroons. So like a mushroom and a goon. Like this. So there's a whole shroon family, and you will be able to, you can, if you're interested, learn about those this type of information, and thus every overlord has their own topic. I mean, if you give somebody gift in Germany, then you might be in prison very quickly. Exactly. So yeah, and oh yeah, wait. I don't want to crash the game. So now let's draw the princesses. Because apart from Punzel, all princesses have quite boring names. No, not boring, but they have a name pattern that becomes obvious pretty quickly. So this one here. I mean, the princesses are a little bit like My Little Pony characters. In that they all have kind of the same... Or like a combination of My Little Pony and Sailor Moon. They always have their own symbol, just like the flanks in My Little Pony. And they are all pretty similar, except for, like, they have things that are always the same. Like, every one of them has a dress, a simple dress. But then, like in Sailor Moon, they all have the things where they differ a little bit. Like the shoes in Sailor Moon. So here, each of them has a little bit of a different crown. And this one is called Stella. Stella. And she's a bit more feisty than Punzel. I mean, I'm sorry, this is me trying my best to draw with the mouse and show you the new character design. Oh, Punzel. Good question. None of them really. I think Punzel is like a combination of the main character of Sailor Moon, Peach, and Garfield. I think if you put those together. I mean, Punzel is pretty stoic, open with her feelings. She acknowledges her feelings, like if she's disappointed, she's not afraid to show it. But also, she doesn't have like, if she fails, she gets up and just tries again. There is no other option. So she is a little bit like a stand-up character. At the same time, you can see she's a bit chubby. She is a little bit philosophical, even though it doesn't become apparent through the game. She's a bit dreamy. For sure, she has ADD. Not necessarily the hyperactive variant, but the dreamy, getting lost in thought variant. And then here we have the other character. So the yeah, okay, the chat says Punzel loves lasagna. I mean, come on, who doesn't? Who doesn't? Like, apart from pizza, tell me 3 awesome foods: pizza, lasagna, and tacos. I mean, come on. Okay, the chat also writes, wow, that is actually so good for a mouse. Thank you so much. And does she scratch her owner? Well, if you watch one of our videos on TikTok, you will see that she doesn't scratch her owner, but she will bite you if you get on her nerves. Yeah. And the chat says, oh, she has the same kind of ADHD as me. Yeah, this is the more common variant for girls. Like, I also have ADD, and I have a super thick audiobook that I have too much ADD to actually finish. But it has a lot of case examples, very interesting examples, and not only is it way fewer detected in girls than in boys, or has been, I mean, things have progressed a lot now, but also the dreamy variant is a little more common in girls. That's why it's also less often spotted. Right, because of course if you're like the Zappel-Philipp in the story where you're constantly in movement and, you know, looking around and can't sit still, this is way easier to diagnose, because yeah, you how is it called, verhaltensauffällig, yeah, people, you stick out in contrast to other people around you who just sit still in class. Yeah, Chad writes, same with autism. Yeah, actually I recently found a YouTube video where people like that, this is often quite common, also quite common, that ADD and autism can just appear at the same time. So oftentimes people are like, yeah, I can't be this because I already know I'm that, but it can just be both at the same time. And then of course you have a lot of, I mean, then the other thing is, like most things, this is a spectrum. So, I mean, when do you start to call it the one thing? Like, when do you say a person has ADD and isn't just, you know, a little bit forgetful, or you know, everybody is a little bit scatterbrained. I have the feeling all young people now, if you try to watch a movie geared to young people, like children, like the new Spider-Man movie, you just have to assume that ADHD is the new norm, and now everybody else is just considered slow. I mean, so sometimes I wonder even how much sense it makes to those clusters only make sense if people suffer. Only then is it an interesting question. If you really suffer from, you know, for example, if you're somewhere on the spectrum of not understanding how other people work, or if you have ADD for just procrastinating and not getting your stuff done, even though you want to, even though you know you have to, but you just can't overcome this beast inside of you that decides to just do something else constantly. Then you're suffering, and then it's good to know, you know, that this exists and that things that can help you with that exist as well. I mean, we are going on tangents here, but also people will just have to stop me in the chat and be like, get back to the game. And I can do that. This is the other character. Her name is Bella. So Stella is a bit more feisty, and Bella is the more introverted one. And she has a flower, and every princess has a scientific topic attached to them. So Stella basically is interested in astronomy, and every of those topics are basically what those princesses do in their spare time, because every single princess will get bored after a certain amount of time, and typically what they do is they make deals with their overlords to get, to at least have something to do. And so Stella basically is into gardening and botanic, and so biology, but from the perspective of plants and flowers. And Bella, and Stella basically gets looking glass and catalogs stars and so on is her hobby. Punzel actually has philosophy, because I believe this is the kind of like the foundation thing. It's a bit somewhere else than the other ones. Okay, the chat asked, do they all stink? I haven't thought about it yet, but I absolutely believe that they all should smell in different ways. Punzel can also smell nicely, right? Telescope. Yeah, exactly. Telescope was the thing I was looking for. Okay, so we have Rainbow Dash Stella and Fluttershy Bella. Yeah, in some ways, but Stella is not as mobile. There's another character that actually isn't a princess, but is a rogue character. Her name is Bella, which is a German joke, because they all kind of end in L.A., because that's such a typical female kind of princessy name. But the German word for firework is Böller, and it's ER ending in German is just spoken like an A, so it's like Böller, and so her character name is Böller. And what she is she is a so-called harpy, and this is what happens to princesses who don't finish princess kindergarten but are too wild to be contained. They run away and they become harpies, and they live in a tree house, like a Baba Yaga inspired tree house in a wilder part of the continent where all those different places and characters are at. So Bella is the kind of the rowdy one. So personality-wise, she is, I think, closest to Rainbow Dash. And they get a little bit more goblin-like. They develop goblin-like character or even physical traits after a while. So this is Bella. And there are some episodes of where Punzel, like there will be, spoiler alert, a moment where Punzel will manage to escape after a certain amount of Gametoons. And then she will get to meet Bella and the other harpies and the country they live in, basically. Which is also a little bit inspired by another fairy tale kind of thing, which I can also recommend if fairy tales is something you're interested in, which is called Ronja Räubertochter. The environment will be very heavily inspired by that one, because I loved how wild the landscape looks like, which Ronja Räubertochter means Ronja, the daughter of robbers, or of how are the criminals called in olden times that were laying on the wayside? Robber, of course, is the same word origin as Räuber, but I think there is a better, more sophisticated English word. Okay, a harpy, is she a bird? Yeah, this is a little bit with the treehouse as well. This is a bit inspired from Russian fairy tales, where you have how is she called, Baba Yaga, the old. In my head, I always wondered a little bit about witch lore, and to me, if you want to differentiate types of girls, then you have the more princess type of girls who kind of get taught how to behave and how to do everything correctly and stay in your home kind of, right, and wait for your prince. So those are the princesses, and then you have the ones who kind of go crazy and cannot bear this kind of a destiny and basically run away and do something completely else, which then have typically in history become the witches or the harpies or the old ladies, like Baba Yaga, of course, also is the old witch. Right, highwaymen, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's the daughter of the highwaymen. However, in this case, like Ronja Räubertochter is actually, even though highwaymen is a good word, in the fairy tale of Ronja, those are all, I think, Raubritter, which is, Ritter is knights, but those were rogue knights, and they live in a fortress. So she is the daughter of rogue knights that live in a fortress and kind of rob the surrounding peaceful cities and fight wars with each other. So Raubritter. Now we're getting deep into German kind of medieval fantasy lore, which this world, of course, is also inspired by. So yeah, we have Stella, Bella, Bölla, Punzel. And I think I already designed 7 or 8 more characters. So are you more of a princess or a Baba Yaga? That is also a very good question. I have thought about this. I don't have an answer to that because at the same time humans are more complex than that, and the overlord lives inside of me. There is an overlord inside of me. I'm teaching at a university, so for my students I am for sure that is my role, kind of, and then also the goblins also live inside of me. I have 2 sisters, and I have fought with them just the way the 2 goblins fight with each other, so they're heavily inspired by my interactions, especially with my, not the composer sister, but my other sister. Punzel, of course, also is one expression of me. I think, of course, in a way, a character I aspire to be in some ways, kind of like one best of versions, but even the castle itself, the skulls, the crow, those are all personality facets or things that live inside of me that I haven't, gotten rid of because I believe in their values or value combinations, because I think they have traits that I deem worthy. So I think everybody has their own Punzel kind of world living inside of them. The only difference is that I kind of condensed those facets into characters, into settings. Yeah, exactly. Chat says, so every character has a small piece of you. Yeah, absolutely. Everything in this game is supposed to be authentic. I don't want to have anything in the game where you could come to me and be like, why is this in the game? And I'd be like, I didn't think about it, or, I don't know. I love when things are thought through. I love when things have lore where you feel like you can poke, you can ask a question, and you will find such a rich underpinning. So Punzel looks, I think, pretty simple from the surface, but there is a deep promise that everything is there for a reason, and that I have thought about 1 or 5 different things behind this. Or I can at least tell you some hopefully interesting anecdotes about those things. So, yeah. I mean, we really went on some tangents here, but I was very happy that I could tell you a little bit more about different things, that are still, to be found. Oh no, Verstrahlte Isabel in the chat writes, my pictures are so embarrassing. No, come on. Don't say that. The feature is meant to be, nobody is able to produce pretty pictures with this feature. The only reason I can even produce something halfway decent is because I have been drawing in this style with this medium for such a long time. I mean, once more, I'm old. my drawing tool that I grew up with was paint, and I drew in paint with my mouse. So this is a skill that I acquired because I grew up in a time like in the digital medieval ages, basically. So so please don't, like, this drawing tool is meant to encourage, not, you know, not make anybody sad. Oh yeah, we spent a lot of time in those scenes. Is there anybody else that has a wish for me to draw something? Should I maybe, you know, draw Godzilla in the landscape scene? Oh, by the way, there is a super important character. I can draw another character into the landscape scene that you will get to know later. And it's basically just by us pretending to change the angle a little bit. So you might have seen, I don't know if it's visible. Let's see, Punzel. Yeah, you can see this lake around the castle. This is part of the lore. There is a poisonous lake around the castle. And actually, if you read the Punzel comics, hint hint, on the website, you will see that there is a character that Punzel actually falls in love with, kind of. Like, so this is the poisonous lake. And in this lake, there lives a monster. Like a Loch Ness monster, which of course is another fairy tale. Oh yeah, another comment from the chat. I only say an apple a day keeps the prince away. Okay, yeah, I mean, this should be the the banner hanging over the Overlord's room. Yeah, so this character, the Loch Ness monster, it's a green, and if it comes out, it kind of looks maybe a little bit like this. Okay. Or something like that. And it's okay, chat writes, is it nuclear waste like the moat around the Candy Kingdom in Adventure Time? You know what? Shame on me. I don't have an intelligent answer for you yet, which shows me that I haven't thought deeply about every single aspect, deeply enough about every single aspect. So the next time you ask me this question again, I will have a better answer. It can't be nuclear waste just because the gobos aren't advanced enough for such advanced technology. However, now that you're asking it, I want to have a much more... I'm just stupid. It's not nuclear waste, but it is, let's call it magically induced mucus, and it actually ties into the lore. I'm sorry, I was stupid, I didn't remember. I'm not sure if I really want to spoil you yet, however, yeah, even what it is has a lore. It ties into the origin of the castle, and the castle has a lore. Why it's there and what it's made of. And how this relates to the skulls. So basically, this character has another name, a German name. I'm not sure how to translate it yet. The character is called Augenkrebs, which means eye cancer. Maybe it will just be called eye cancer in English. Or it will remain Augenkrebs. However, the first time I colored it, I only used neon colors, and the colors were so ugly with all the rest of the of the whole design that that basically the character just was called Augenkrebs, because he was so ugly that you would basically get eye cancer from looking at it. And then it just remained. Okay, wait, so Verstrahlte Isabel says that an apple a day keeps the prince away is the title of the fan art. Oh, I'm so looking forward to see it in Discord. Awesome. Wait, we want to see that. You want to see the background lore. No, come on, guys. I can't spoil every single thing in this stream. Otherwise, you will have no incentive to, you know, interact with the games in the future if you already know everything now. And also, it's tied to a super cool character that will be introduced later, and that will actually come to life. So, even though it sounds like a cop-out, you just have to trust me in this. Anyway, this is Augenkrebs, and yeah, basically, Punzel's biggest goal. Punzel is in love with it in a way of that to her this is the coolest monster she has ever seen, and one of her biggest friendship goals is actually to tame and become friends with Augenkrebs. Oh, the Augenkrebs pic. Yeah, oh, the original Augenkrebs pic. Oh my god, it's so ugly that you're going to get Augenkrebs, I promise. Wait, I can see if I'll see if I find it, but it's really ugly. And I don't know if I can find it quickly enough. Graphic assets. I mean, maybe here. No. Pseudo screenshots. Also no. Or maybe. No, this is the wrong one. Oh god, I'm only going to search for like 2 more minutes and then I'll give this up. Oh, maybe it's here. Yeah, okay. So please consider that this graphic is pretty old. So this this was one of the first. At that time, I was still working in Inkscape and not in Procreate like I'm using now. So that was Inkscape art, and yeah, that was the original Augenkrebs picture. So let's see. Let's go back to the game capture. Here we go. Oh yeah, right. I can also post it in Discord later. Oh. Yeah, just check the Discord, but I'm just getting encouragement from the people who originally wanted to spare with me in the voice channel. But now they're just writing like, you're doing great, and I'm just wondering if they just don't want to talk to me. It's beautiful. You should have called it beautiful. I don't know. Oh my god, everybody seems to like it. Okay, thank you very much. I found it horrible, and especially the color combination. And also I find the name Augenkrebs funny. So I think it will remain to be Augenkrebs. But I appreciate the nice sentiment, so thank you very much. Yeah, anyway, I mean, I'm really starting to wonder how much lore I can spoil, or if there is anything else you would like to know or see. Okay, let's unstink Punzel. Yeah, no, unfortunately there are no more spiders. No, I need some, either some inspiration from the chat or somebody to talk to, or just the information if it's time to end the stream, and you know. Also, I spent half of the day to prepare a cool video. You know what? I'll take a 5-minute break, and if you do me the favor, not leave, or if you...